My name is Elise Hart. I'm 35 years old. If you saw my family from the outside, you'd probably think we were close. Big holiday gatherings, group photos with matching sweaters, a family group chat that never stops buzzing. If you looked a little closer, though, you'd notice the cracks. The way every plan somehow depended on my wallet. The way my parents spoke to me, like I was both their greatest investment and their biggest disappointment. And this past Christmas was the moment those cracks finally split open. It started like it always did. The text in the family group. Mom, Christmas at our place. Everyone's invited. They sent the same thing every year, like it was some loving tradition and not a mandatory event. I wasn't excited. I never really was. But when it's your parents and your kids are asking about Christmas, sometimes you just go through the motions. My boyfriend Marcus helped me pack the car. Emma, 6 years old and still believing in all the magic, bounced around in her sparkly red dress. Ryan, 4, clutched a toy car in one hand and his favorite blanket in the other. Are Grandma and Grandpa going to have presents under the tree? Emma asked, eyes shining. Of course, I lied, trying to keep my smile steady. It's Christmas, isn't it? Marcus glanced at me like he knew I wasn't as sure as I sounded, but he didn't say anything. He just kissed my temple and started the car. When we pulled up to my parents' house, it looked like a postcard. Lights wrapped around the porch, wreath on the door. The faint sound of carols drifting out when the door opened. The whole family was already there. My older sister Amanda and her kids, a bunch of cousins, aunts, uncles, the usual chorus. For a little while, it almost felt good. Kids racing around with sugar-high energy, adults doing that surface-level catching up, work, weather, vague life updates. My parents had outdone themselves with decorations. The tree glittered with ornaments from our childhood, each one a tiny reminder of a time when I really thought they were proud of me. Emma stood in front of the tree, staring up like it was the most magical thing she'd ever seen. Mom, she whispered, tugging at my sleeve. Do you think Santa came here too? I swallowed the stone in my throat. I'm sure he did. Then came the gift exchange. The kids were buzzing, crowding around the tree as my mom started handing out presents. Amanda's kids first, she said lightly, grabbing a big, glossy box. New tablets, they screamed with excitement. Then more boxes, bikes, drones, expensive games. My cousin's kids shrieked and tore wrapping paper, wrapping themselves in the chaos. An uncle held up a sleek watch and everyone clapped. The living room filled with laughter and camera flashes. Then it stopped. The pile of gifts under the tree shrank, then disappeared. The crinkling of wrapping paper quieted. I waited. Emma and Ryan waited. Nothing. Emma looked around, smile fading, her little eyebrows scrunching together. Ryan shifted closer to me, clutching my hand now instead of his toy car. Mom? Emma whispered. Where are ours? I felt the question land in my chest like a weight. I turned to my mother, forcing my voice to stay calm. Hey, I said, did you forget Emma and Ryan's presents? My mom crossed her arms slowly, her face hardening into that familiar, icy expression that always made me feel 10 years old again. We didn't forget, she said. My stomach dropped. We didn't get them anything. We're not congratulating them. The room went silent. I blinked. I'm sorry, what? She didn't flinch. They're just like you. Ungrateful. Entitled. We won't reward that. Emma's face collapsed. Tears welled up instantly. Ryan's eyes shone, but he bit his lip, trying not to cry in front of his older sister. Marcus took a small step forward, then stopped when he realized nobody else was saying anything. Amanda looked away, suddenly very interested in a piece of wrapping paper on the floor. My cousins exchanged uncomfortable glances, but kept their mouths shut. It was like everyone knew this was coming except me. Jenna's name didn't exist here anymore. In this version of my life, there was only me, Marcus, and our 2 kids, standing in the middle of a room full of people who decided my children weren't worthy of Christmas. Mom, I said slowly, you humiliated them. They're children. They didn't do anything. You spoiled them, she snapped back. Just like you were spoiled. You all need to learn that you won't always be rewarded. Elise. Ungrateful. Entitled. The words echoed in my head, twisting into a familiar chorus I'd heard my whole life. Beside me, Marcus murmured, Elise, let's go. Emma was crying now, full-on tears dripping onto her dress. Marcus knelt and pulled both kids into his arms, while I stared at my parents, waiting for someone to stop this, to say it had gone too far. No one did. The whole room stayed frozen in that thick, shame-filled silence. I took a breath that felt like glass. Okay, I said, we're leaving. We bundled the kids into their coats and walked toward the door. No one moved to stop us. No one apologized. I slammed the door behind us. The sound cracked through the quiet street like something breaking for good. On the drive home, the kids sat sniffling in the back seat. Marcus drove with his jaw clenched, knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Why don't Grandma and Grandpa love us?" Emma asked softly. I stared out at the dark road, lights blurring through the windshield. "How do you answer that?" "They do love you," I lied automatically, hating myself for it. "They just don't know how to show it." The truth was uglier. They loved control. They loved leverage. They loved the way my money kept their world stable. Love for my kids? That didn't seem to factor in at all. As Marcus drove, my mind replayed the last few months. The fight about the house. My parents had decided their current home wasn't good enough anymore. They wanted a new place, bigger and better. When I told them I couldn't buy them a house, the guilt trip started. How after everything they'd done for me, I refused to give back. I tried to compromise. "I'll pay for renovations instead," I'd said. "Fix the second floor, new plumbing, new wiring, walls, everything." They reluctantly agreed, like they were accepting pity instead of a massive gift. I'd already spent $21,000 on those renovations. $21,000 ripped from my savings to make their lives easier. The second floor was torn up, the workers in and out for weeks. And still, it wasn't enough. It was never enough. As Emma cried quietly behind me, something cold and sharp settled in my chest. They wanted to pretend I was the problem? Fine. They could handle their own repairs. As New Year's approached, an idea solidified. Not a petty impulse, a decision. When we got home that night, I tucked Emma and Ryan into bed, promising them that next Christmas would be different, that we'd make our own magic. Marcus wrapped his arms around me in the dark hallway, whispering, "I'm sorry. They went too far." "They always go too far," I whispered back. "I just finally noticed." The next morning, I woke up still seething. The anger hadn't faded overnight like it usually did. It had settled into something steadier, resolve. I grabbed my phone and scrolled to Frank, the contractor handling my parents' renovation. He picked up on the second ring. "Hey, Elise, happy holidays. What can I do for you?" "I'm canceling the project," I said. "Tell your crew they'll be done after New Year's. No more work orders after that." There was a pause. "Are you sure? Your parents are going to be furious." "Let them call me," I replied. They already made their priorities clear. As I hung up, a strange feeling washed over me. Not relief exactly, not victory. Just the first taste of something I hadn't had in a long time. Control. It didn't last long. Around noon, the calls started. Amanda, Dad, unknown numbers. I watched my phone light up on the table and didn't touch it. I knew this was only the beginning. And for the first time, I also knew I wasn't going to back down. By noon, my phone looked like a warning signal. Missed calls stacked on top of each other. Amanda, Dad, home, a couple of unknown numbers that I knew weren't really unknown. I made coffee. I checked on the kids. I pretended the buzzing rectangle on the kitchen counter didn't exist. Eventually, Mom's name flashed across the screen. I stared at it for a long second, then picked up. "You're canceling the renovation?" she demanded. No greeting. No, "How are the kids?" Just straight to business. "You heard me," I said. "I'm done." There was a sharp inhale on the other end. Then the familiar, clipped tone. "This is irresponsible, Elise. Selfish. We have the entire second floor torn up. How can you just leave us like this?" I leaned against the counter, tracing a knot in the wood with my fingertip. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you humiliated my children on Christmas," I said. "You crossed a line. I won't keep bending over backwards for you." "Stop being so dramatic," she snapped. "Your children need to learn that they will not be rewarded for bad behavior, just like you." I actually laughed. It came out bitter and tired. "Right, teaching them a lesson by making sure they're the only kids in the room with no gifts. On Christmas. Real classy, Mom." "Don't talk to me like that," she hissed. "We are your parents. You owe us respect." "You're right," I said. "I owe you respect, not blind obedience. And respecting my kids means removing them from people who think cruelty is a teaching tool." Before she could answer, I hung up. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline. A few hours later, the doorbell rang. I checked the peephole and groaned quietly. Amanda. She walked in without waiting for an invitation, shrugging off her coat like she owned the place. Same as always. "You can't just leave them like that, Elise," she said, skipping hello entirely. "Hi, Amanda," I replied dryly. "Nice to see you too." She rolled her eyes. "I'm serious. The second floor is uninhabitable. They don't know what to do. You can't just pull the plug." I folded my arms. "You were there. You saw what they did to Emma and Ryan." She flinched, just barely. "I know it was harsh, but you know how Mom gets." She doesn't mean half the things she says. She meant it enough to say it in front of my kids. Amanda sighed and sank onto the edge of the couch, rubbing her temples. They're old, she said. They're set in their ways. You know that. You have to be the bigger person. There it was, the line she always used. I'm older, but somehow she's always the golden child, and I'm the one who's supposed to be bigger. Bigger has cost me over 20 grand, I said. New plumbing, new electrical, new walls. I've been paying for these renovations, and they still act like I owe them everything. When you went through your divorce, who helped you? She hesitated. They did. Exactly, I said. They bailed you out emotionally, financially, practically. They showed up for you. When I needed something, a little basic respect for my kids, they weaponized Christmas. We're not playing the same game. Amanda's jaw tightened. That's not fair. It's not fair, I agreed, but it's true. We stared at each other in the kind of silence that isn't empty at all. It's full. Stuffed with years of little resentments and comparisons we never said out loud. I'm not asking you to grovel, she said finally. Just don't leave them in a house they can't live in. They created this mess, I replied. They can figure out how to live with it, or fix it, without my money. Her gaze sharpened. You really won't help them? I'm done being their personal bank. She shook her head, grabbed her coat, and walked back to the door. You're making a mistake, she said quietly. Maybe, I said, but if I am, at least it'll be my mistake, not theirs. She left without another word. That night, Marcus found me sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the spreadsheet of renovation payments I'd printed out, line after line of transactions. Hey, he said softly, rubbing my shoulder. You okay? I've spent more on their house this year than I have on our kids' savings, I said. I keep telling myself I'm being a good daughter. But what kind of mother am I if I let my parents humiliate Emma and Ryan and then reward them for it? Marcus sat down across from me. I get that. I do. But you know they're freaking out, right? The second floor is basically stripped. Not my crisis. He hesitated. I'm not saying you should cave. I don't want this to turn into something you can't come back from. Marcus, I said, meeting his eyes. It already has. He looked away, fingers drumming the table. Grace used to say I avoided conflict, he admitted, that I'd rather keep the peace than face the truth. His ex-girlfriend's name slid between us like a shadow. And was she wrong, I asked? He gave a humorless laugh. No, not really. I'm not doing that anymore, I said. Not with my parents, not with anyone. He nodded slowly, like he wanted to be on my side, but was still learning what that meant when it involved letting people be upset. 2 days later, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a name I didn't expect. Chris, my cousin. We weren't particularly close, but we got along at family gatherings. He was always the one making jokes in the corner, watching everything more closely than people realized. Hey, Elise, he said. I heard what happened at Christmas. My stomach twisted. Let me guess. Mom and Dad told you I abandoned them in the middle of renovations to punish them? He snorted. Pretty much. But my mom told me what actually happened. No presents for the kids? That's messed up. I just wanted to check in. That's rough. Yeah, I said quietly. It was. I don't blame you for pulling the plug, he continued. They've been pulling this crap for years. My mom told me they think you owe them for everything they did for you when you were younger. But as far as I can see, you've already paid that debt and then some. It was like a knot in my chest loosened a little. Thanks, I said. You have no idea how good it is to hear someone else say that. Over the next few days, more cousins reached out. Turns out my parents had been gossiping about me for a while, painting me as ungrateful, difficult, dramatic. But not everyone was buying their version. I'm proud of you for standing up to them, one cousin said. They've been controlling everyone with favors for years, another admitted. You're just the first one who's really pushed back. But while support trickled in from the sidelines, Amanda was busy. She dragged some of our aunts and uncles into the situation, framing it as me abandoning my elderly parents. Suddenly, what started as a private boundary turned into a full-blown family debate. Half the family thought I was right to stand my ground. The other half whispered that I was vindictive. The pressure was mounting like a storm front. Emma, perceptive even at 6, noticed my forced smiles and quiet sighs. Are Grandma and Grandpa mad at us? She asked one night, curled up in my lap. They're confused, I said carefully. They don't understand some things yet. Do you still love them? The question caught me off guard. Yes, I said after a long pause. I do. But loving someone doesn't mean letting them hurt you, or your kids. She nodded slowly, as if filing that away somewhere important. One evening, as I was putting dishes away, my phone rang again. Dad? I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. Instead, I wiped my hands on a towel and picked up. We need to talk, he said. His voice was cold, clipped, like a rehearsed speech. About what? I asked, though I already knew. The renovations, he said. You can't just leave us like this. We need you to get things back on track. I already told Mom I'm done, I replied. You can hire someone else. He didn't blow up. He didn't yell. What he did was worse. His voice went even colder. If you go through with this, he said slowly, there will be consequences, Elise. I gripped the edge of the counter, pulse ticking in my ears. Consequences, I repeated. Like what? There was a beat of silence on the line, and I had the sinking feeling that the war my parents wanted, it was about to start in earnest. Consequences, my father repeated, his voice heavy with something cold and deliberate. Yes, I said. Tell me, what exactly does that mean? A pause. Then, with the kind of calm cruelty only someone who knows exactly where your wounds are could muster, he said, if you refuse to finish the renovations, we will no longer be part of your life, and that includes Emma and Ryan. My stomach dropped. For a moment, I couldn't even breathe. You're threatening to cut off your own grandchildren, I said slowly, because I won't spend more money on your house? It's not a threat, he replied. It's a reality. You think you can disrespect your family like this and walk away without consequences? Fine. If you won't take responsibility, then we're rewriting the will. You and your children won't get a dime from us. There it was, the mask off, both barrels aimed. I laughed then, a low, bitter sound that didn't feel like it belonged to me. You think I care about your will? I said. I'm the one who pays for everything. Your repairs, your utilities, your renovations, your emergencies. What exactly do I want from you? You'll regret this, he growled. Then he hung up. The house felt too quiet after that, too still. Marcus walked in from the living room, seeing the look on my face. Elise, what happened? I told him, word for word. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. Jesus, Elise, this is insane. It's who they are, I said. I just finally stopped making excuses for them. He tried to pull me into a hug, but I wasn't ready. Not yet. My body felt wired, electric, in fight mode. And if they wanted a war, they picked the wrong daughter to provoke. The next morning, I woke with clarity. Sharper than pain. There was one thing I still controlled, one thing they weren't expecting me to remember. Years ago, when their finances got too stressful, I set up a joint account to help them manage bills. Only my money had ever gone into it. Over time, they treated it like their own private reservoir. They assumed I'd never close it, never question it, never touch it beyond refilling it like some obedient machine. They were wrong. I logged in on my laptop. The balance stared back at me. The accumulation of years of just this once, and we'll pay you back later. I transferred every cent to my personal account. Then I closed the joint account entirely. It wasn't impulsive, it wasn't revenge, it was mine. My money, my decision. Within minutes, the fallout began. Mom called first. This time, her voice wasn't icy, it was frantic. Elise, what did you do? I took back my money, I said, matter of fact. The account was mine. You can't just take everything, she sputtered. That account was for the family. No, I said. It was my money. I opened it to help you, but I'm done being your bank. You don't understand, she cried. We have bills to pay, contractors waiting. Figure it out, I said. I'm not your solution anymore. And I hung up. It wasn't a dramatic slam, just a click. Came, final. Then came Amanda. Of course. You're making it worse, she said before I even said hello. Mom's crying. Dad's furious. They say you emptied the bank account. Yep, I said. And I'm not putting a dime back in. Elise, come on! They threatened to disown my kids, Amanda. Are we really glossing over that? She hesitated. I could hear her swallow on the other end. They said that? Yes, I snapped. Is that the family I'm supposed to be the bigger person for? She fell silent. For once, she didn't have a lecture ready. Finally, she muttered, I need to talk to them, and hung up. The next 48 hours were chaos. Not on my end. I had finally reclaimed some peace. But in the family? It was a civil war. Cousins started calling. Chris again. You're a legend, he said. Seriously, they've been pulling this stuff on everyone for years. You're just the first one who actually fought back. I didn't feel like a legend. I felt tired, bruised in ways that had nothing to do with the Christmas incident. But I also felt right. More cousins texted. Apparently my parents' behavior wasn't a secret. They'd just been subtle about it for years. Death by 1,000 guilt trips. Older relatives split into camps. Some backed my parents. Others said, honestly, Elise did what she had to. Aunt Carol sent me a text. Stop tearing the family apart. Make peace for the children's sake. Funny how no one cared about the children on Christmas. That evening, Dad left me a voicemail. His voice was shaky with anger. "You've done enough damage, Elise. You think you're going to make us suffer? We'll see how you like it when the whole family knows what kind of daughter you are. Selfish. Ungrateful. You'll regret this for the rest of your life." I listened to it twice, then shut off my phone. A strange calm washed over me, a clarity I'd never had before. I wasn't the one tearing anything apart. I was just finally stepping out of the wreckage. The next day, Marcus showed me his phone. New messages. From Amanda, from some of my aunts, from relatives I hadn't spoken to in months. Apparently, Dad had decided to tell his side of the story. In his version, I'd abandoned my poor elderly parents. I'd drained an account meant for the whole family. I left them in financial ruin. Conveniently missing from his story? Everything they'd done to my children. The threats, the insults, the manipulation. Marcus read message after message, his jaw tightening. "They're trying to drag you," he said. "Hard." "I know," I said. "Let them." "Elise, are you sure?" I nodded. For the first time in my life, yes. That afternoon, Chris called again, excitement buzzing in his voice. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "Some of us, me, a couple cousins, were thinking of pitching in to help with the renovations." My heart sank. "Chris, you don't have to fix their mess." "We're not doing it for them," he interrupted. "We're doing it for you. So they can't throw it in your face anymore. So they can't weaponize it." I didn't speak for a long moment. In my entire life, no one had ever helped me for my sake, not without wanting something back. "Why would you do that?" I whispered. "Because we're tired," he said simply. "And because someone had to stand up. You did." 2 days later, I got a voicemail from Mom. Her voice wasn't cold or angry this time. It was frightened. "Elise, please, we need to talk. Your father and I, we're scared. We're in over our heads. We need your help. Please call me back." I played it twice. I didn't know if it was real or another tactic, but I wasn't ready to find out. That night, Amanda texted me. "They're crying, Elise. They're scared. They don't know what to do without you." I stared at the message for a long time. Not with guilt, with revelation. They don't know what to do without me. Exactly. And that was the real problem, the one I had enabled for far too long. Marcus came to sit beside me. "You don't have to decide anything tonight," he murmured. He was right. For once, I wasn't reacting. I was thinking. I wasn't going to crumble. I wasn't going to rush in and save them again. No. Tomorrow, I was going to do something different. I was going to talk to a lawyer. By the time morning light crept through the blinds, my decision had solidified. It wasn't powered by anger anymore. This was something colder, clearer, like a rope finally being cut after years of pulling me in every direction. I opened my laptop, found the number for the lawyer who'd helped me with my will a few years back, and booked an urgent consultation. When I explained everything, every payment, every shared account, every favor that had cost me thousands, the lawyer didn't even look surprised. "Elise," he said gently, "you've been financially supporting them far beyond any reasonable expectation, and you have legal standing to revoke access to anything tied to your name." "So, I can detach?" I asked. "You can do far more than that," he said. "You can protect yourself." The word protect hit me harder than it should have. I'd spent so long protecting everyone else that the concept felt foreign, almost wrong. But I nodded and let him guide me through the steps. Revoke my name from all shared accounts. Freeze access to investments I funded. Permanently terminate any automatic payments. Issue a formal notice ending financial support. When I signed the final document, my hands trembled. Not from fear, but from the weight of reclaiming something I hadn't felt in years. Word spread fast. It always does in this family. Mom called first. No anger, no icy tone. Instead, I heard panic. "Elise, you don't understand. Your father and I understand perfectly," I said. "We have bills. The contractors—" "Not my job," I said. "Not anymore." "Elise, please," she begged. "We're ruined. You can't do this to us." I closed my eyes and exhaled. "I didn't do this to you," I said. "You did this to yourselves." I hung up before she could spin the story. Within hours, the smear campaign intensified. Aunt Carol texted Marcus, "You need to talk sense into Elise. She's destroying her parents." Uncle Dave posted a cryptic status on Facebook. "Some people forget who raised them." Marcus showed me the messages, his expression dark. "You okay?" he asked quietly. "I'm fine," I said. "I'm finally fine." He nodded, squeezing my hand. For once, he didn't tell me to keep the peace. He was learning, maybe slowly, but learning. The cousins who supported me didn't back down. They stood louder, firmer. Chris called again. "You won't believe what's happening," he laughed. Aunt Carol tried rallying people to shame you, but half the family is calling her out. They've had their own issues with your parents. This is blowing up in their faces. I leaned back on the couch, absorbing the words with unexpected ease. It was strange. How many people had been quietly hurt by my parents, waiting for someone to say enough? Maybe I wasn't the rebel. Maybe I was just the first domino. 2 days later, Amanda showed up again. Not storming in this time, not lecturing. She knocked softly, eyes red, clothes wrinkled like she hadn't slept. "Elise," she whispered, "they really did say that? About disowning Emma and Ryan?" "Yes." She closed her eyes, as if the truth hurt more than she expected. "I confronted them," she said. "Mom tried to lie at first. Dad didn't. He said you pushed him to it." "That sounds like them," I replied. Her lip trembled. "They're losing everyone, Elise. The cousins, the uncles. Even Aunt Kim said she's done with them." Her voice cracked. "They're turning into people I don't recognize." I didn't say what I was thinking. They've been like this for years. You're just seeing it for the first time. Instead, I said, "I'm sorry, Amanda, but I can't help them anymore. Not after what they did." She nodded, defeated. Then she left, quietly, like someone grieving a version of our parents that only existed in her memory. 3 days later, they came, my parents, together. I saw them through the peephole, the first time I'd seen them since Christmas. Dad looked exhausted, hollow-eyed. Mom's face was blotchy, clearly from crying. For a moment, I felt something twist in my chest. Not guilt, not sympathy, just the remnants of an old reflex, the instinct to fix everything. I ignored it and opened the door halfway. "Elise," Mom whispered, "please, can we talk?" I didn't invite them in. "What do you want?" I asked. Dad stepped forward. His voice wasn't cold this time. It was weary. "We were wrong," he said. "We handled things badly. We shouldn't have said what we said. We hurt you and your children. We're sorry." Mom nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Elise, please. We've lost control of everything. The house is a disaster. The family is turning against us. We need you." The words landed softly, too softly, like bait, like a hook, like something I'd swallowed 1,000 times before. I crossed my arms. "Now you need me," I said. "After years of treating me like the problem, after humiliating my kids, after threatening to cut them off to punish me." Their flinches were small, but I saw them. "Elise," Mom whispered, "we're asking for forgiveness." I looked at them, really looked, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel fear or shame or the desperate urge to make things right. I felt clarity. "You're not sorry," I said softly. "You're scared. You're sorry you're losing control. You're sorry your plan didn't work. But you're not sorry for what you did." Dad's jaw tightened. "Elise, family doesn't treat each other the way you've treated us," I said. "And I'm done being your puppet." Their faces crumpled. "Elise, please." "No." I stepped back and closed the door. Not slammed, just closed. Firm, final. A door I should have closed 10 years ago. The weeks that followed were quiet, peaceful, a stillness that felt earned. No more guilt texts, no more financial crises disguised as emergencies, no more manipulation. Amanda tried to patch things up, but I couldn't trust her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The relatives who sided with my parents drifted away. The ones who saw the truth stepped closer. But none of it really mattered, because my focus was finally where it always should have been. On my children, on my life, on my peace. One Saturday, Marcus and I took Emma and Ryan to the park. They laughed on the swings, shouting for us to push them higher. I watched them, bright, free, unburdened, and felt something settle inside me. Not victory, not revenge. Freedom. Chris summed it up best when he called me a week later. "You did the right thing, Elise. Sometimes cutting people off is the only way to protect your peace. You owe your kids a better legacy than the one your parents tried to give you." He was right. My parents made their bed. Now they had to lie in it. And I finally stepped out of the shadows, out of their expectations, out of their grasp. The war was over, because I walked away from the battlefield.